Welcome back. I'm Dr. Cheek and I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and today we're going to talk a little bit about how do you not only survive but learn to enjoy the holiday season with your family. And today I'm just going to give a few helpful tips on how to survive the holidays with family members and how to enjoy the holidays if you're spending time with family or by yourself. Just some things to keep in mind. So, first tip is you cannot be everything to everybody. What I want you to take from this is you need to know your limitations. You need to know what you are capable of doing, and you need to not push yourself past those limits the entirety of the holiday season. Now, are there going to be times where you need to push past feeling drained, feeling tired, and feeling like there is no more energy left? Yes, there may be times when that is necessary, but there is also times when you need to say, this is my limit. This is what I'm capable of doing today, and this is where I need to stop. And only push past those limits when you know you are capable of doing so and when you know that you are wanting and willing to do so. Along those same lines, you need to listen to your body. When your body says you need a break, take a break. Because when you keep pushing past those breaking points or those limits that your body and your mind has set for you, there's going to be a time where you just completely shut down. You're going to want to keep going, but you may not be able to do so. So listen to your body, especially if you're dealing with chronic pain, if you're dealing with any type of ailments or illnesses. Listen to what your body is telling you. Listen to when your body and your mind is telling you you need a break. Pushing past those internal signals helps no one. What you will find though is that if you allow yourself to take those small breaks, 30 minutes, hour, whatever that break looks like that your mind and your body needs, when you allow yourself to take that break, you have much more energy to do the things that you were wanting to do in the first place. So listen to your body and your mind. Lastly, be willing to ask for and accept help. I know this is a hard concept for a lot of people because it's not easy to always ask for help for a multitude of reasons why we struggle with asking for help. Whatever the reason, see if you can forego or see if you can kind of turn down the volume on all the reasons to not ask for help and ask those around you for help and see who's willing to step up. See who's willing to kind of lend a hand in those times, and you can't do it all by yourself. I know we like to think we can, but when we do it all by ourselves, we're so busy doing that we're not actually enjoying or taking time to engage and spend time with those around us. That takes me to my next point, or my next tip is don't neglect to make time to enjoy the season. Now, this may look like starting new or re-engaging in old family traditions that focus on togetherness as opposed to focus on gift buying or posting great social media photos. This may look like we're going to make sure we focus on spending time together, playing games, getting outside in nature with the entire family. This may look like you starting those new traditions, things you haven't done before, or re-engaging in old traditions that focus on your family simply being together as opposed to being commercialized or focused on social media photo gathering. This may also look like making time and creating spaces for you to just be by yourself or to be to yourself if you need that me time. You may be the type of person who needs to go out on maybe a short drive. So you are the one that said, I'll go to the store because I need some time to myself. It may look like you going into your room and simply closing the door. It may look like you taking a 5 to 10 minute break in the bathroom where no one is in there with you and you are just having some time to yourself. It may look like you going outside and just getting some fresh air. Make time and space for that me time if you need that time to yourself, and also make that time to enjoy with your friends and family members. Whatever that looks like, I can't tell you what that looks like for you because for all of us, it's going to be different. So what does that look like for you? Now, third tip is address any negative thoughts and emotions about past negative experiences over the holidays, as well as make time and space for those not so great emotions. I am never going to advocate for ignoring your emotions because when we ignore them, they tend to get louder. So I'm not going to ever advocate for you ignoring your emotions. So sometimes we need to make space and acknowledge whatever emotions we're having. Not all of us have like this nostalgic, feel good, positive or pleasant memories about the holiday season. Some of us have memories that included struggle, that included letdowns, that included disappointments, that included instability. All of those things could be associated with someone's holidays, and those emotions may come up around this time where you feel like even though you could be completely stable as an adult, you may feel a sense of instability because you were used to going through that, or a sense of chaos because that was something you experienced a lot in childhood around the holidays. If you are noticing that you have these feelings that don't seem to be in line with what you are truly experiencing, start to examine that, start to question that, start to make space for that. Acknowledge that those emotions are there, and maybe that could be something that you start to work on and to work through. It's not something that you need to maybe take a lot of time to focus on, but make space and acknowledge, like, yes, I'm feeling uneasy right now. Yes, internally I feel chaotic, but nothing is really happening around me that feels chaotic. Maybe after the holidays, that might be something I want to address. Might be something you want to address right now if you have the time and resources to address it at that time. But my ultimate goal in that moment is for you to acknowledge that you're having those emotions. And if you're able to maybe acknowledge where that emotional inconsistency may be coming from for yourself, if you're able to. Now, another thing is around the holidays, we tend to experience a higher level of grief. Whether you've lost a loved one over the holidays, or you've lost a loved one, period, or you've had some changes in your family dynamics, the holiday season may consist of having some grief laden or some stronger grief related emotions because you're dealing with loss, you're dealing with change, and you're dealing with transition. This is normally the time of year that we spend a lot of time with our families, our friends, and our other loved ones. And when we don't have them, or we don't have that normal family system, or we don't have that usual family system, then we may start to grieve those losses. Make space for those grieving emotions, whether that's sadness, whether that's anger, whether that's depression. Make space for that. Acknowledge it. That's what I mean by make space. Acknowledge that you're feeling that way. Acknowledge that you're not having a great day or a great moment in this moment. And maybe you can acknowledge where that may be coming from if you are aware of where that is coming from. It may be you're missing a loved one. And there are ways that you can grieve or honor them or celebrate them and incorporate them into your holidays that may help with that grieving process. But it may not be something you prepared for this year. So this year, just take a moment to acknowledge that you are having those stronger grief-related feelings. Make space for those uncomfortable emotions. And if you're able to, again, acknowledge or address where they may be coming from, where those emotions may be originating, if you're able to make that connection. If you're not, again, this may be an opportunity to meet with someone to maybe see what that connection is. If you notice that every year around the same time, everything feels a lot harder for you, everything feels a lot chaotic for you, your emotions doesn't make sense, it may be helpful to start to go to therapy to examine that. That may be something you want to look at in therapy. May not be something that you can do this year, but moving forward, that may be something you want to address so that every holiday season doesn't feel like this inconsistency of what's actually happening in reality versus what's going on internally. And allow yourself to have those joyful emotions as well. You don't have to sit in those uncomfortable emotions. Simply acknowledge that you're having them and make space for those more feel-good emotions. Fourth tip is know your limitations and say no. Around the holidays, it never fails. There are going to be family members that want to have certain conversations. There are going to be family members that ask you certain questions that you're not willing or wanting to answer. Find a graceful way to bow out of that conversation, or find a way to say that this is not something I'm willing to answer. This is not a question I'm willing to answer. Thank you for asking, but that's not something I'm willing to share. Think about and maybe prepare some of those responses, because inevitably there will be a conversation or a question that you are not comfortable engaging in, and you have to have a way of being able to address that in the moment. And along those same lines of knowing your limitations and being able to say no is that you don't have to say yes to every invitation you receive. Simply because you received an invitation doesn't mean you have to go. So practice saying no to invitations or to places that you do not want to go, or you do not feel safe, or you do not feel like it will engender that same holiday spirit. So whatever that invitation looks like, whoever that invitation may be from, if you're in a place, a space, or a mental state state where you need to say no, say no. Doesn't have to be no for forever. It could just be no for this year. But be able to know your limits and say no. And it is okay. And last but not least, that fifth tip is this is not your first rodeo with your family. You know them very well. This is not the first holiday season with them. So prepare for the expected and plan accordingly. Again, looks like what I talked about just a few moments ago, which is if you know your family has the tendency to ask intrusive questions, have a prepared response for that. That response could be, that's my business, not family business. That response could be, I don't want to answer that question. I prefer not to answer that question. Is there something else you'd like to talk about? That could be any number of responses you feel like would be adequate to explain that this is not something you're willing to engage in, whether it's a list of questions, intrusive questions, or conversations. Have a prepared statement or a prepared response for these types of engagements. And if it's the first time you're spending time with family that is unfamiliar to you, I'm going to assume that you're going with someone who's in this family. So talk to them about their family. Maybe the two of you can prepare together, or whoever you're going with, maybe you all can prepare together of how to address your family and maybe to know what family members to look out for. These, again, are not our first interactions. We know what to expect from these family members. And are you going to change a family member over this holiday season? Not likely. So in order to survive and enjoy the holidays, sometimes we have to prepare for the expected. And we know some of these family members will bring. So be able to have something to say that, one, you're comfortable with, but it also makes it really clear that you're not willing to engage in this line of questioning or the conversation. Now, along those same lines, you have to make space for and allow that someone will have their own reasoning as to why you're not engaging. And that's not something you have to correct. If people want to have their own assumptions as to why you don't want to engage, why you're not answering questions, let them have their own assumptions. A part of that process and with that expectation and being able to move forward and not engaging is being able to allow people to have their own assumptions of why you're not engaging. And lastly, with that same you know your family, that may look like having a time frame of how long you want to spend time with this family, or planning ahead with your family or friends and saying, we're going to go here and we're only going to be here for this amount of time. If I give you this signal, this means that I need to be saved from this conversation or from this situation. Whatever that looks like, plan ahead and be able to do what you need to do to feel comfortable spending time with your family, but also being comfortable with saying that, yep, I've had enough and I'm okay to go home at this point or go wherever your next destination may be. So what I hope you take from today's conversation is spending time with family around the holidays doesn't have to be all bad. There are ways that we can not only survive, but enjoy spending time with our family members. There are several tips that I've given throughout this video, such as being able to listen to your body, not trying to be everything for everyone, know your limits, take breaks when necessary. 2, being able to make time for yourself and make time to enjoy your friends and family members. 3, being able to make space for those not so good emotions or those more uncomfortable or those harder emotions to process, but also making space for those joyful or happy emotions. 4th, being able to, again, know your boundaries or your limitations and say no to things that we want to say no to. And last but not least is expecting the expected and planning ahead. And no, there are going to be difficult things that happen during the holidays. There are going to be difficult people to deal with around the holidays. Does that mean you need to cut off contact and not actually engage? No, that means you need to be able to know how to engage so that you can enjoy the holidays as well as enjoying your loved ones. Anyone else that you want to make time for and space for around the holidays, you can do that even if everything is not going according to plan. It may not always be easy, but it's also not impossible. As always, I hope you take something from today that has been helpful, that has been useful for you to manage the holiday season. I thank you, as always, for taking the time to listen. Please feel free to jot down any thoughts, comments, or questions you have below, and I'll be seeing you again very soon. Thank you.